When the German generals heard the first reports of thousands of American trucks roaring day and night along the roads of occupied France, they laughed. They called it madness. They said it was impossible to coordinate such chaos. How could the Americans supply an entire army with just trucks? It was absurd, inefficient, chaotic. But within a few weeks, what seemed like a logistical disaster transformed into the largest land transport operation in modern military history, the legendary Red Ball Express. A living network of steel, gasoline, and courage that kept the most powerful army on the planet moving. And the Germans' laughter didn't last long. August 1944. The Allied forces had broken through the Normandy defenses after the success of Operation Cobra. The Atlantic Wall, which Hitler swore was impenetrable, was in ruins. The Third Army, commanded by the impetuous General George S. Patton, advanced through France like lightning. No other Allied commander moved with such audacity. Patton believed in war as movement, and his army was a storm on wheels. But success created a problem. In just a few weeks, the American troops were more than 600 kilometers from the landing beaches, from where all the supplies came. Sherman tanks constantly needed fuel. The infantry needed food, ammunition, boots, medical kits, everything. And every meter of advance made the supply lines longer, more vulnerable, and slower. The French railways were destroyed by Allied bombing. Bridges, tunnels, and ports were in ruins. The army was moving too fast for its own shadow. A lieutenant wrote in his diary, "We can beat the Germans if we can get there before we run out of gas." Each Sherman tank consumed about 1.5 liters of fuel per kilometer, and Patton's army used thousands of them. The forward fuel depots were getting further and further away, and the trucks that were supposed to deliver gasoline were also consuming fuel going back and forth. By mid-August, the Third Army had literally begun to grind to a halt due to lack of fuel. The tanks were parked on the side of the road, the soldiers watching helplessly. The advance that could break the heart of Germany was on the verge of collapse, not because of the Germans, but because of logistics. General Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied forces, understood that he needed an immediate solution. And that's when an audacious idea was born. A continuous system of truck convoys, operating 24 hours a day, non-stop, connecting the ports of Normandy to the battlefronts. An army on wheels, a vital lifeline made not of rails, but of asphalt and courage. The name Red Ball came from American railroad slang, a priority train, carrying vital cargo and having free passage on all lines. Now, this concept would be applied to war. In just 5 days, the American logistics team planned and assembled what would be one of the largest transportation operations in history. More than 6,000 GMC CCKW 2.5-ton trucks were organized into continuous convoys, operating day and night. Each vehicle received the symbol of a red circle painted on the front, the emblem of the Red Ball Express. The roads of France were transformed into one-way routes to avoid congestion, one lane for going, another for returning, totaling more than 700 kilometers. The drivers received clear and direct orders. Drive as fast as possible. Don't stop for anything. Deliver the cargo, at any cost. And so the operation began, thousands of trucks roaring non-stop, creating a living chain of supplies that fueled the war. The heroes of this story didn't wear stars on their shoulders, but grease on their hands. Most of the drivers of the Red Ball Express were African-American soldiers. At that time, the United States Army was still segregated. Black soldiers were rarely sent into direct combat. Instead, they were assigned to transportation and maintenance units. But now, they were the backbone of the Allied advance. Without them, Patton's tanks would never have moved. These men faced everything: muddy and destroyed roads, occasional bombings by the Luftwaffe, constant mechanical failures, and extreme physical exhaustion. Many slept only 2 or 3 hours a night inside their own trucks, with the engine running to keep warm. They drove without headlights at night, in long columns that snaked through the French countryside. If a truck broke down, another pushed it. If there was an attack, they kept going anyway. One driver later reported, "We were afraid, but we knew that if we stopped, the whole army would stop with us." The Red Ball Express became a precision operation. Every 25 kilometers, there were repair stations, mobile workshops, and supply teams. The convoys departed at scheduled intervals, as if they were wagons of an invisible train. In just a few days, the numbers became impressive. More than 12,000 tons of supplies per day, 23,000 drivers and mechanics, and an average of one truck every 2 minutes passing certain points on the route. The roads vibrated with the sound of the engines. It was as if a metallic wave was sweeping across France, pushing the front line towards Germany. The French watched in amazement, endless columns of trucks with bright red symbols shining on the hood, advancing relentlessly. When Luftwaffe pilots began spotting American convoys all over France, they thought it was some kind of desperate maneuver. They called it Die Amerikanische Torheit, the American folly. But they soon realized the truth. Those trucks were fueling an unstoppable force. Patton's army did not stop. The tanks roared again, the cannons fired again. Every drum of gasoline delivered was another kilometer conquered. A German officer wrote in his diary, "The Americans fight not only with men, but with machines and fuel. They move the world with them." Despite the success, the operation was far from perfect. There were traffic jams, accidents, trucks lost on the roads, and exhausted soldiers. The vehicles suffered so much wear and tear that the tires were changed every 2 or 3 days. Fuel, ironically, was sometimes scarce for the trucks themselves, but even with flaws, the machine did not stop. In September 1944, when Patton's army was about to run out of gasoline, the Red Ball Express accomplished one of the greatest logistical feats of the war. In less than 72 hours, thousands of trucks transported enough fuel to keep the entire Third Army moving. It was the miracle of the road. One general said, "I've never seen anything like it. It's as if America itself were moving across France." The Red Ball Express operated for 82 consecutive days, from August 25th to November 16th, 1944. When it ended, it had transported more than 400,000 tons of supplies. It was like moving 40 entire cargo ships overland under enemy fire. As new rail routes were restored, the operation was gradually phased out, but its impact was already etched in history. Eisenhower himself stated, "Without the Red Ball Express, we would not have been able to cross France." The Red Ball Express proved something that few understood until then. Logistics wins wars. Weapons win battles, but it is the fuel, the food, and the organization that keep an army on its feet. And those who ensured this were simple men, often forgotten by history books. The African-American drivers of the Red Ball Express showed the world that courage has no color and that heroism doesn't need medals. After the war, many of these soldiers returned home and faced the harsh reality of segregation in the United States. But on the battlefield, they were giants. They proved that without their work, the generals and tanks would be nothing. The German generals never understood. To them, it was irrational to move thousands of trucks day and night. It was American madness. But it was precisely this madness that broke Hitler's empire. The industrial strength, audacity, and capacity for improvisation of the United States transformed chaos into victory. And so, the sound of the Red Ball Express engines became the sound of German defeat. The Red Ball Express was not just a logistical operation. It was a symbol of the union between courage, technology, and purpose. It was proof that wars are won not only in the trenches, but also on the roads, in the workshops, and in the cabs of trucks that never stopped moving. The men of the Red Ball Express, black, white, mechanics, drivers, wrote one of the most extraordinary pages in modern military history. And when the last truck turned off its engine in November 1944, the war wasn't over yet, but victory was already on its way. Fade out, sound of engine fading to silence. "Without the Red Ball Express," said Eisenhower, "victory in Europe would have stalled on the side of the road.